How to Make Something Urgent by Rohn. Developing a Sense of Urgency. In summarizing all that we have shared in this book, perhaps it would be accurate to say that our ultimate success or failure depends on three fundamental things: what we know, how we feel about what we know, and what we do with and about all that we feel and all that we know. But there is another fundamental that must be mastered if we are truly serious about making meaningful changes in our lives. This last fundamental is the glue that holds together all of the pieces to the life puzzle. You see, it is quite possible that even after applying all of the principles we have discussed in this book, some people will still fall far short of their objectives, despite all of their efforts to refine their philosophy, to develop an attitude that is conducive to success, to work harder on themselves, to study their results, and to live a more unique lifestyle. All that they dream of becoming, seeing, having, and experiencing may still elude them. Why would those who seem to be serious about making these important changes still be wandering around in circles rather than moving ahead? Why would those who are planting their seeds fail to reap a bountiful harvest? The human comfort zone. Perhaps part of the answer to these questions may be that it is because we already have so much that we tend to settle for so little. Just about everyone has a place to live, a phone, a television, a car, and some source of income. We have clothes to wear and food to eat. With our basic needs taken care of, we drift into a dangerous place called the comfort zone. We lack either the sense of overwhelming desperation or the incredible force of inspiration to drive us into the marketplace. We might often wish for more. We might frequently want more. But we have neither a burning need nor a burning desire to do what it takes to have more. The most dangerous aspect of the comfort zone is that it seems to affect our hearing. The more comfortable we are, the more oblivious we become to the sound of the ticking clock. Because there always seems to be so much time ahead of us, we unwittingly squander the present moment. We use it for entertaining ourselves rather than for preparing ourselves. Those who live in the comfort zone seem to have developed a strange philosophy about human immortality. I have all of the time I need to carve out my personal success story. There's always tomorrow. There's always next week, next month, and next year. There is no real cause for concern. There is no real need to do anything about changing right now. After all, it won't always be the way it is. By this time next year things will be different for me. And so for now, for this moment and for this day, those who are full of good intentions about improving their circumstances remain content with things as they are. Today will be a day for relaxation, or for making more plans, or watching a little TV, or for gathering strength for the new offensive against mediocrity that will begin tomorrow. Tomorrow I will get up early, and stay up late, and invest all my talent and resources for the purpose of making a dramatic change in my life, says the person with good intentions but no sense of urgency. I read 3 books last month, so I think I'll take this month off. I worked hard this week, so I think I'll just relax. Tomorrow. I should probably make that call today, but what's another day? Tomorrow will do. Small errors in judgment are repeated every day. Today is yesterday's tomorrow. The problem with waiting until tomorrow is that when it finally arrives, it is called today. Today is yesterday's tomorrow. The question is, what did we do with its opportunity? All too often we will waste tomorrow as we wasted yesterday, and as we are wasting today. All that could have been accomplished can easily elude us, despite our intentions, until we inevitably discover that the things that might have been have slipped from our embrace a single and used day at a time. Each of us must pause frequently to remind ourselves that the clock is ticking. The same clock that began to tick from the moment we drew our first breath will also someday cease. Time is the great equalizer of all mankind. It has taken away the best and the worst of us without regard for either. Time offers opportunity but demands a sense of urgency. The 2-minute warning. It is interesting to watch football teams on a Sunday afternoon. They spend the first 58 minutes routinely following the game plan they thought would result in victory. Then, something rather remarkable happens. An official walks onto the center of the field and announces what has come to be known as the 2-minute warning. What happens in the following 120 seconds is frequently awesome. We often witness more intensity, more cleverness, more expended energy, and more action compacted into those 2 final minutes than occurs in the previous 58. Why? A sudden awareness of the sense of imminent defeat and the birth of a new and sharpened sense of urgency. The participants know that the clock will show no favoritism. The clock will merely do what clocks are supposed to do. They will tick away the seconds until the game is finally over. The team that finds itself on the threshold of defeat might have shown an extraordinary level of ingenuity and intensity at any time throughout the game. They had the potential and the opportunity to outscore their opponents early in the game. But sometimes, despite their intentions, the players make only an average effort until it is too late. Sometimes the blowing of the whistle announcing the 2-minute warning is merely a formality, signifying the probability of impending and irreversible defeat. And so it is with the individual human life. The seconds slip into minutes, and the minutes into hours, and the hours into days, until we awaken one morning to discover that the moments of opportunity are gone. We spend our final years reliving dreams that might have been, regretting all that never was and now never will be. When the game of life is finally over, there is no second chance to correct our errors. The clock that is ticking away the moments of our lives does not care about winners and losers. It does not care about who succeeds or who fails. It does not care about excuses, fairness, or equality. The only essential issue is how we played the game. Regardless of a person's current age, there is a sense of urgency that should drive them into action now, this very moment. We should be constantly aware of the value of each and every moment of our lives, moments that seem so insignificant that their loss often goes unnoticed. We still have all the time we need. We still have lots of chances, lots of opportunities, lots of years to show what we can do. For most of us, there will be a tomorrow, a next week, a next month, and a next year. But unless we develop a sense of urgency, those brief windows of time will be sadly wasted, as were the weeks and months and years before them. There isn't an endless supply. Learn to see a picture of the future in advance. If we could capture the mental picture in our minds of how the future will be, given our current direction, perhaps we would become more serious about our lives. The following story illustrates dramatically the consequences of failing to develop a sense of urgency. One day a man was sitting in his small boat on the Niagara River. The waters were calm, the breeze was gentle, and the sun shone brightly from a cloudless sky. Only moments before, the man had pushed his from the riverbank, and even now the shore was only a few feet away. Clearly, there was no cause for concern. As he baited his hook and cast his line into the water, his mind began to drift. And so did his small boat. The movement was slow and imperceptible in the beginning, with the boat doing what any boat will do when left to drift along with the gentle current. But all drifts are leading toward an eventual destination, and left uncorrected will move toward that destination as though by some strange and unseen force. In his preoccupations of the moment, the man did not notice the increased movement of his boat. His thoughts were still on fishing as they had been all week in anticipation of this outing. There would be plenty of time for seriousness. For a little while at least, he would continue to relax and enjoy himself. He would ignore the challenges of life and use this hour to allow himself to drift. Without warning, his thoughts were shaken from wherever they had wandered, back to the present. The sounds seemed to come from nowhere, distant at first, but in the twinkling of an eye it had intensified and was now almost deafening. His attention was seized not only by the sound, but by the movement, for his small boat was being propelled through waters that were no longer gentle and calming. He looked around him, and for the first time he noticed the river banks on either side had retreated as though on a journey of their own. He had no motor on his small boat and had journeyed forth with only a single paddle. There had been no apparent need for a motor or oars. He struggled to comprehend what was happening, for it was as though he had moved from the calmness, the serenity, and the safety of one environment into the frenzied turbulence of circumstances beyond his ability to grasp or control. In an instant, the reality of his circumstances registered clearly. The thundering sound, the rising foam, the swirling mist, and the uncontrolled momentum of his boat created an instant picture of his horrid circumstances. He had cast himself and his small boat onto the Niagara River, and his drift had brought him to the threshold of the falls. His mind flashed a collage of thoughts and emotions. If only he had thought about the consequences of his drift. If only he had been better prepared and had thought to equip his boat with a motor, just in case. If only he had noticed sooner, or if only now did the man notice the crowd that had gathered along the far banks on either side, as the word quickly spread about the boat cascading down the river toward irreversible disaster. It was as though those who knew what was about to happen were wanting to help, but to make any attempt to rescue this hopeless creature would serve only to jeopardize their own safety. Some made futile efforts to toss ropes or to hold out tree branches, but most stood in stunned silence, witnesses to a tragedy that need not have happened. In a fleeting moment he felt the impending doom of his own personal neglect. He was a victim of his own preoccupation, of his careless inattention to detail in an environment that had the capacity to swallow up his existence, his opportunities, and his abilities, and to put all of his dreams to an end in one brief moment. His one final thought was what he would do differently if only he had a second chance. His thoughts rushed through his mind with the same rapidity as the water passing over the edge of falls, tumbling to their final destination hundreds of feet below. Had he been given the gift of a second chance, he would have allowed himself to see the possible future disaster well in advance. He would have seen it clearly in his mind before the event took place in reality. He would have anticipated the certain consequences of neglect. In his mind's eye, he would have seen the rising foam, heard the roar of the falls, and sensed his accelerated drift, so that he might have acted without delay to move quickly to the safety of the shore. If he could have been plucked from the waters instead of being consumed by them, he would have placed new value upon his talent, his opportunities, and his time. He would not have allowed frivolity to capture his attention, nor would he have permitted the desire for rest and relaxation to take his focus off the greater need for intense labor and measurable progress. But unfortunately, he simply ran out of time examining our current drift. And so it is with our lives. We are all drifting in some direction, even at this very moment. The only thing we can determine with any degree of accuracy is where our current drift may be taking us. The big unknown is whether there are still enough ticks left on our personal clocks to change. For some people, their past deeds have charted a course that threatens to imprison their future, and yet they do not take corrective and immediate action. They allow the drift of neglect to continue unabated. They permit their desire for entertainment to subdue their appetite for education. Rather than searching, they become lost. They are inclined to think that their small mistakes or neglects or errors in judgment don't really matter all that much. They have not yet learned that everything affects everything else, and that their actions of today are forming their consequences of tomorrow. Their careless acts and their wandering thoughts are swallowing up their most precious resource, time. It is because they seem to have so much time that they allowed the individual moments of opportunity to slip unnoticed into an accumulation of empty years. Our philosophy is moving us toward a specific future condition. So is our current attitude, level of activity, and results. Our current lifestyle is either encouraging us to experience new depths of emotional experience or whispering to us to wait until we have it all. What we are and how we are must be examined not only in the light of our objectives, but also with a keen awareness of the ticking clock. Maybe we only have a few years left. Maybe we only have a few months left. But wouldn't it make more sense to be doing something constructive with the time that remains than to be passively waiting for time to take its inevitable toll? Life is not a practice session. The time for practice is over. Practice time was while we were growing up. Practice time was while we were in school. We are now full participants in the game of life, and our opponent is human mediocrity. In the absence of intense and intelligent human activity, the weeds of failure will move in to destroy the small amount of progress that our efforts have created. We cannot afford to wait for the 2-minute warning. We cannot afford to wait until the last few minutes to discover that our game plan wasn't working. And we cannot afford to wait until the last few ticks of the clock to become intense about life's opportunities. We must challenge ourselves right now with a new level of thinking and drive ourselves toward a new level of achievement. We must impose upon ourselves a new discipline and develop a new attitude about life that motivates us and inspires others. We cannot keep waiting for a foolproof opportunity to come by before we force ourselves to get serious. We must identify our current opportunity and embrace it. We must breathe our talent and our vigor and our new sense of urgency into its existence and discover all that we can do. We cannot allow ourselves to dwell upon the risks in every opportunity. Instead, we must seize the opportunity that is inherent in every risk, knowing that we must sometimes run the risk of going too far in order to discover how far we really can go. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You can do it. You can change your life, and you can start right now simply by developing a new sense of urgency. Remember, the clock is ticking. You have the ability to achieve whatever you want if you will just begin the process now. It is easy to achieve success and happiness. And it is easy not to achieve them. The final result of your life will be determined by whether you made too many errors in judgment, repeated every day, or whether you dedicated your life to a few simple disciplines, practiced every day. The discipline of strengthening and broadening your philosophy. The discipline of developing a better attitude. The discipline of engaging in more intense and consistent activity will lead to the achievement of greater results. The discipline of studying your results in order to anticipate the future more objectively. The discipline of living life more fully and investing all of your experiences in your better future. These are the challenges to which you must apply your talent and your intensity with a sense of urgency and unshakable resolve. May the pieces to your life puzzle come together smoothly, and may you enjoy the picture of that finished masterpiece as a result of our unwavering commitment to mastering the basics. Let your efforts and results give cause to those who will one day gather to pass judgment on your existence to speak only the simple phrase, "Well done, good and faithful servant."